All the people that helped Camilla get the crown on her head were excluded from that coronation, and they were furious. And not only that, Kate and William were angry too.
At 76, King Charles has finally broken his silence on a rumor that has lingered in whispers through palace halls for years: Camilla's alleged affair with a royal guard. Long dismissed as gossip, the claim has now resurfaced with startling clarity, and the king's candid words have left the world reeling. So what truly happened behind closed doors? Was it an innocent friendship twisted by speculation? Or is there a deeper truth the monarchy tried to keep hidden? This revelation could shake the royal family's image like never before. The king's confrontation. When the photograph landed in his hands, King Charles did not shout or pound the table. That was never his way. His power had always been in his restraint, in the cold precision of his words. But this time, behind the heavy doors of a private royal chamber, he sent for Camilla. She arrived, composed as ever, but she could feel the tension in the air. The king did not waste time with pleasantries. Holding the image, he demanded an explanation. Camilla gave a short laugh, a sound meant to brush the matter aside. "It's Rupert, Charles. You're making too much of it," she said, her tone light, as though the photograph were nothing more than a misunderstanding. But the king's expression did not change. His eyes were fixed on her, unblinking, and colder than she had seen in years. In that moment, he wasn't just looking at a photograph. He was looking at a history. He didn't care if it was a royal guard or someone else. Decades of mistrust flickered in his mind. The scandals splashed across tabloid covers, the whispered rumors in palace corridors, the relentless media circus. And beneath it all, the ghost of Diana lingered. Her quiet misery, her wounded dignity, her life lived under the same suffocating glare. The weight in Charles's voice was more than jealousy. It was the heavy burden of a king whose reign already stood on uncertain ground. His illness had made him vulnerable, his grip on stability fragile. One wrong step, one scandal too many, and the image he had fought to rebuild could crumble in an instant. Camilla stiffened. This was not the first time she had been accused, judged, or despised. She had survived being the most hated woman in Britain, painted as the villain in a royal tragedy for years. She had outlasted venomous headlines, crude cartoons, and whispers from society's most influential lips. She had faced it all and emerged still standing, crowned queen consort beside the man she had loved for decades. But this was not the court of public opinion. This was the king himself, and in his voice was not only suspicion, but a warning. He searched her face, looking for any flicker of truth. She met his gaze evenly, neither confessing nor denying, offering only the shield of her poise. Every word she spoke was measured, designed to reveal nothing. Yet, her silence carried its own weight, a refusal that could be read as defiance or as dignity. The air between them was heavy with unspoken words. For Charles, the question was not just about loyalty, but about survival, of his crown, his marriage, and the fragile trust of a nation. For Camilla, the moment was not merely about defending herself, but about holding her ground in a world that had always demanded she justify her presence. In the stillness, the photograph lay on the table, a small but potent thing. To the world, it was just an image, but to the king, it was a crack, one that could widen into something that might undo them both. And so, in that gilded room where titles and crowns meant everything, they stood facing each other, bound by love, history, and the dangerous knowledge that the truth, whatever it was, could never be entirely spoken aloud. So, why was King Charles hesitant to engage Queen Camilla in any argument or heated discussion? Was he losing grip of his authority? Or is that just his style? What was King Charles like when he was much younger? Let's find out. A life shaped by duty, controversy, and change. Charles Philip Arthur George, born on the 14th of November 1948, now reigns as King of the United Kingdom and 14 other Commonwealth realms. His arrival came during the reign of his maternal grandfather, King George VI, a time when Britain was still rebuilding after World War II. In 1952, his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, ascended the throne, making the young Charles heir apparent, a role that would define much of his life. In 1958, at the age of 9, he was created Prince of Wales, a title steeped in centuries of tradition. His formal investiture took place in 1969 in a grand ceremony at Caernarfon Castle. Charles' education was broad and at times challenging. He attended Cheam School and Gordonstown, institutions known for discipline and rigor. His schooling also took him far from home. He spent 6 months at the Timbertop campus of Geelong Grammar School in Victoria, Australia, an experience that exposed him to a different culture and way of life. Later, he pursued a degree in history at the University of Cambridge before choosing a path of military service. From 1971 to 1976, Charles served with distinction in both the Royal Air Force and the Royal Navy, roles that further instilled in him a sense of duty and discipline. His personal life, however, would capture as much public attention as his official duties. In 1981, Charles married Lady Diana Spencer in a ceremony watched by millions worldwide. They had 2 sons, William and Harry, who would one day become central figures in the modern monarchy. Yet behind the fairy tale image, the marriage faced deep challenges. Both Charles and Diana engaged in highly publicized extramarital affairs, and in 1996, they divorced. Tragedy struck the following year when Diana died in a car crash in Paris, an event that shocked the world and reshaped public attitudes toward the royal family. In 2005, after years of scrutiny and speculation, Charles married his longtime companion, Camilla Parker Bowles. Though the union initially stirred controversy, Camilla gradually assumed a significant role within royal life, eventually becoming queen consort upon Charles's accession. Beyond the headlines, Charles built a legacy of philanthropy and advocacy. In 1976, he founded the Prince's Trust, a charity that has since helped hundreds of thousands of young people. Over the years, he became patron or president of more than 800 charities and organizations, championing causes from education to heritage preservation. He has been a vocal advocate for environmental conservation, organic farming, and climate change action, positions that earned him both praise and criticism. He developed Poundbury, an experimental town in Dorset, reflecting his belief in traditional architecture and community-oriented planning. While he has openly criticized genetically modified foods, his promotion of alternative medicine has been met with skepticism. Charles has also expressed his views through writing, authoring, or co-authoring 17 books on topics ranging from the environment to philosophy. When Queen Elizabeth II passed away in 2022, Charles became king at the age of 73, the oldest person in British history to take the throne. His reign began with his coronation in 2023, a historic occasion that blended ancient ceremony with modern touches. In 2024, his cancer diagnosis forced him to pause many public engagements, marking yet another chapter in a life lived under constant public gaze. From the coal-dusted post-war years of his birth to the gilded halls of the monarchy, Charles III's journey has been one of enduring responsibility, personal trials, and a determination to shape the world in line with his convictions. Princess Diana's memory seems to torment Charles more after Camilla's affair was proven beyond doubt. Did the trio of Charles, Diana, and Camilla share something in common? Let's delve into the details of affairs that Camilla swam in. Ghosts of an affair that changed the monarchy. Long before the weight of a crown rested on her head, Camilla Parker Bowles was already a central figure in one of the most turbulent chapters of modern royal history. She was not the queen then, nor even the duchess, but rather a presence, felt more than spoken of, in the life of the man who would one day be king. Her laughter, soft yet knowing, and the lingering glances she exchanged with Prince Charles seemed harmless to outsiders at first. But to Princess Diana, they were unmistakable signs of something deeper, something that gnawed at the fragile trust within her marriage. When the truth eventually surfaced, it was devastating. The fairy tale image of the Prince and Princess of Wales shattered under the weight of reality. The world learned that Charles's heart had never truly left Camilla, even during the years when his hand belonged to Diana. Public opinion, once willing to embrace Camilla as a friend of the royal family, hardened. She became the other woman, a title whispered with disapproval and printed in bold headlines. It was a scandal that not only rewrote royal history, but also altered the way the public viewed the monarchy itself. Yet, behind the loudest gossip of those years, another name quietly circled in certain conversations: Rupert Finch. He was no prince, nor a tabloid fixture, just a royal guard. But his occasional appearances near Camilla were enough to stir curiosity among those who paid attention to the subtler movements within royal circles. Finch was, by all accounts, charming and well-connected. His interactions with Camilla were never the subject of open scandal. But to some who observed closely, there was a different kind of energy when he was around, a lightness in her tone, a shift in her expression. At the time, such moments were easy to dismiss. The official narrative painted them as nothing more than casual acquaintances, sharing polite exchanges at formal events. Many assumed it was the kind of harmless friendship that naturally develops among people moving in the same elite circles. But as years passed, whispers grew more insistent. There were stories, rarely recorded and never confirmed, of private conversations at secluded gatherings, of warm exchanges in corners, far from the glare of photographers' flashbulbs. No official statement ever linked Camilla and Finch in anything resembling impropriety. The royal household, ever careful in its language, treated the subject as non-existent. And yet those who claimed to have seen their interactions spoke of an undeniable warmth between them, something not captured in the official photographs but remembered by those who were there. This quiet, almost invisible thread in Camilla's life remained overshadowed by the much larger storm of her relationship with Charles. But in the private history of the woman who would one day become queen, it was still a part of the tapestry, one stitched in moments that could never be fully explained to the public. It is in these shadows, where royal history often writes its most intriguing lines, that this chapter rests, not loud enough to spark headlines, not scandalous enough to shake the palace walls, but just enough to raise a question that lingers even now. In a life defined by one great royal love and one public scandal, was there room for another, quieter, connection? Because in the rarefied world of royalty, where glances can speak louder than declarations and friendships can be wrapped in layers of formality, truth is rarely simple, and some stories are written between the lines, waiting for history to decide how much of them should ever be told. Despite all Diana went through in her marriage and the affairs Camilla was said to have had, the world hated Camilla and took her as the villain. At what point did she gain public acceptance? Let's dig into the details of her gradual public acceptance. How Camilla won. Public acceptance. After both Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles ended their respective marriages, Charles made it clear to those around him, and, indirectly, to the public, that his relationship with her was non-negotiable. He understood the storm of criticism surrounding them. Many still saw Camilla as the woman who had contributed to the collapse of his marriage to Diana, and the press was relentless. Determined to shift public opinion, Charles turned to Mark Bolland, the man he had hired in 1995 to polish his own image, and tasked him with improving Camilla's public profile. In July 1997, Camilla was involved in a head-on car collision on her way to Highgrove House. Fortunately, neither she nor the other driver sustained serious injuries, though the incident added to the constant media attention surrounding her. As time passed, she began to appear more openly at Charles's side, often serving as his unofficial companion at various events. Their first unmistakable public debut as a couple came in 1999, when they attended a birthday celebration for Camilla's sister at the Ritz London Hotel. The scene outside was chaotic. Around 200 photographers and reporters from across the globe had gathered, eager to capture the moment. This marked a turning point, transforming whispers into headlines. By 2000, Camilla was accompanying Charles to official engagements in Scotland, slowly stepping into the public sphere in a more formal capacity. In 2001, she took on a public role as the president of the Royal Osteoporosis Society, ROS, an appointment that gave her a platform to be seen as more than just a royal companion, introducing her to a wider audience through charitable work. That same year, she had a highly symbolic moment, meeting Queen Elizabeth II for the first time since her relationship with Charles became public. The meeting took place at the 60th birthday celebration of former Greek King Constantine II. Observers viewed it as a subtle but powerful sign of royal approval. In the years that followed, Camilla's presence within royal circles became more visible. In 2002, the Queen invited her to take part in her Golden Jubilee celebrations, even seating her in the royal box, behind the Queen, during a Buckingham Palace concert. Charles, protective of her, reportedly paid privately for 2 full-time security staff to ensure her safety. Although Camilla maintained her own residence, Ray Mill House, purchased in 1995 in Wiltshire, she eventually moved into Clarence House in 2003, Charles's official London residence. By 2004, she was accompanying him to almost all of his engagements, including a highly publicized visit to Scotland's annual Highland Games. Media speculation about their engagement grew intense, and public polls began showing increasing support for their marriage. However, not everyone was convinced. Many supporters of Princess Diana expressed their disapproval, writing letters to national newspapers, especially after Charles and Camilla's wedding plans were announced. This criticism later evolved into online parody, with internet trolls creating fake Diana fan pages on Facebook and TikTok to mock the couple. Yet despite the backlash, Camilla's influence continued to grow. By 2023, The Independent named her the most influential woman of the year in its influence list. Her name reappeared in 2024 and again in 2025, cementing her transformation from one of Britain's most controversial figures to one of its most prominent and powerful women. Her journey from public scorn to royal acceptance was not swift nor without resistance, but it was, without doubt, one of the most remarkable image rehabilitations in modern royal history. Paying back this high level of support by having an affair remains heartbreaking. How would the royal palace handle this level of scandal? Let's dive into the details of the reactions from the royal palace. The return of a dangerous past. The palace moved with calculated speed, working behind the scenes to smother the embers of the scandal before they burst into open flame. Discretion became the weapon of choice. Rupert, whose name had now been whispered in far too many circles, was quietly told to step back from public life. No interviews, no photographs, no chance encounters for the press to capture. His absence was meant to be invisible, yet noticeable enough to keep questions at bay. Camilla, ever the seasoned royal, carried on with her official duties, her face fixed in that carefully rehearsed smile. In public, she shook hands, cut ribbons, and made speeches with flawless composure. but those who knew her well could see it. The slight stiffness in her shoulders, the fraction of a second's hesitation before the cameras flashed. She was playing her role, but the strain was there. Inside the grand halls of Buckingham Palace, the atmosphere was taut, like a stretched wire ready to snap, conversations lowered to whispers. Courtiers exchanged guarded glances. It was as if the very walls had absorbed the tension, holding their breath along with everyone else. One ill-timed headline, one careless word, and the delicate facade could shatter. In the midst of this, Princess Anne, the king's sister and one of his most trusted confidants, stepped in with her usual blunt wisdom. She urged her brother to tread carefully. In the public eye, she reminded him, suspicion alone can be just as dangerous as the truth. A monarch's image is like fine glass. It can't be mended once cracked. Anne's words carried weight. She had seen the monarchy weather storms before, and she knew how quickly a whisper could become a weapon. Yet King Charles found no comfort in her counsel. At night, sleep refused to come. Alone in the dim light of his private chambers, he lay staring at the ceiling, his mind replaying old memories he wished he could forget. The dread was familiar, a cold, creeping sensation that wrapped itself around his chest. It felt like history was not merely repeating itself, but accelerating, as if the ghosts of past royal scandals had gathered to rush this one to its climax. In the quiet hours, when the grandeur of his position felt like a cage, Charles wrestled with questions he could not voice. Was this merely rumor, or was there truth hiding in the shadows? And if truth there was, did he have the strength to confront it? Age and ill health had already begun to steal from him the stamina he once relied on. The demands of the crown felt heavier now, not just on his shoulders, but on his spirit. Between loyalty to the institution and the pull of personal longing, he stood on dangerous ground. The choice between defending the monarchy's dignity and facing the reality of his private life was not a new one. It had haunted his family for generations. But this time, the stakes seemed sharper, the risks greater. And so the king remained trapped in the same cruel paradox that had undone monarchs before him. The crown demanded a spotless image, but the heart was never so easily governed. Somewhere deep inside, he feared that the ending of the story was already written, and that he lacked the strength to change it. But do you think Camilla had an affair with a royal guard? Or was the king right? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.